DC. The DC Council just voted to ban eviction tenants owe less than $600. So we wanted to know what other protections are in place for renters in DC, Maryland, and Virginia. Here's Delia Gonzalez.
Our sources: DC Council, the Maryland Judiciary, Virginia Department of Housing and Community Development, and Melzon.
The goal of this law is really to make renting fair for everybody.
He's a senior staff attorney in the Housing Law Unit at Legal Aid DC.
Even a record of an eviction case, whether or not it ultimately ends in an eviction, can have long-term effects for tenants. It can make it very hard for those tenants to find housing in the future.
In a unanimous vote, the DC Council passed this bill, the Eviction Record Sealing Authority and Fairness in Renting Amendment Act. The bill still needs Mayor Bowser's signature before becoming law. If signed by the mayor, here's what the law would do: ban evictions when a tenant owes less than $600, seal court records after 30 days if there is no eviction, 3 years after a successful eviction, and require landlords to notify tenants in their native language 30 days in advance. Attorney Zahn says lawmakers use this 2020 study from Georgetown University, McCourt School of Public Policy, and the Meyer Foundation. That study found 60% of evictions occur east of the river. 25 out of every 100 households in Ward 8 are impacted. 3 out of every 100 in Ward 2. In 2018, the same 20 landlords were behind half of all DC evictions. According to the study, most tenants owe modest amounts at the time of their evictions. The average tenant owes just over $1,200. 12% owe $600 or less. So what about our neighbors in Maryland and Virginia? Well, according to the Virginia Department of Housing and Community Development, the General Assembly just extended protections for tenants until June 30th, 2022. So instead of evicting for back rent, landlords must notify tenants within 2 weeks of the rental relief program or apply themselves. In Maryland, the governor's eviction moratorium expired August 15, 2021. According to the Maryland court's website, tenants can no longer use the order as a defense to a failure to pay rent case. However, tenants can still apply for emergency rental assistance. With your Verify, I'm Delia Gonzalez.
Good morning. Good morning. I wanted to lead off with that because around the country, not just in Washington, D.C., cities are passing these type of ordinances, laws, to basically make it very, very, very difficult for your landlord to evict the tenant. Now, in my experience, my history, if the tenant gets behind a couple $100, the odds of them catching up slim to none. So if we go back through that article there where they talked about how $600, you can't evict someone for $600 or less if they only owe you $600. Well, that's going to create an incentive for the tenant to never get up to speed. They'll always be about $600 behind. And I think one of the other statistics, they said something about $1,200 is what the average tenant is behind. For a small landlord, that can be make or break. That can be quite a bit of money that you have to come up with. Someone that's constantly behind $1,200, hell, that may be your mortgage, or half of it, a third of it. And this person's behind, and then you have to cover that. So effectively, you're subsidizing that person's way of living. And I've seen it all throughout my career, being a landlord. And people have often asked me, the first question they often ask me is, well, how do you deal with people that don't pay? And I often tell them, I've never ever had the evicted tenant, never, not once. And people look at me with amazement, disconnect the cable and turn the lights off. Excuse me. But yeah, I've never had the evicted tenant, ever. You know, maybe it's luck. I don't think so. I think part of it is picking the correct inputs on the front side, on the beginning, when you're putting people in, you're putting maybe not the people that's going to pay you. You're going to make some mistakes, but you got to be able to find. You can't put hardened criminals, people that will fight you to no end, to live in your home. You got to have to find people that hopefully they're honest. Because if you look at the laws here, in the one video that I just showed you, it's very, very difficult to put a person out, and they're making it stricter and stricter. And that video that I showed you was from 2022, but these laws have now been in place since COVID. So they remain on. So you can't ban anyone if they owe you less than $600. Well, if I was a tenant, I would never. I would always run a balance with my landlord at $600 if I knew he couldn't evict me, and that's exactly what the people would do. Even if they don't do it with intention, once they get to court and the judge recognizes that they only owe maybe $800, he'll give them the opportunity to pay the other $200 so they can get up to speed. Or if they only owe $600 or less, then well, you're not even gonna make it to court. They're gonna bounce you out in mediation. So back to dealing with this tenant, it goes. And another thing I found interesting was let me see if I can show you. I'm gonna pull up the article. Here we have it here. Let me see if you can see this. If you can see this again. Attorney Zahn said lawmakers use a 2020 study from Georgetown University. That's almost a joke considering the quality of Georgetown University students coming out of that college now, considering the text messages and things like that I've shown you. But last night I was on CT's channel and people were asking me questions like, well, and people have asked me for years, how do you do a credit check? How do you effectively credit check people? And I always say, well, most of the people I deal with on this side of town, maybe not the other side of town, their credit is already bad, but maybe they're working, they need a place to live. Everyone's going to have a place to live. And most of the people that you see committing bad behavior outside, they live somewhere too. And so it's a matter of digging through that, filtering through that trash to figure out which tenants you want to go with. So I found another article for people interested in business and landlording, things like that may be interesting to you. Here's an article from February 2024. Headline. Let me make sure you can see this article that way. You can't see it. Let me show it to you. I am facing my second no-fault eviction in 2 years. Renting is broken. 4 years after ministers promised to ban Section 21 evictions, I am once again being kicked out of my home. This is probably from, I'm not sure where this is from here. Well, this is the UK, but they face similar things. And that here's a woman been evicted twice now. And as you can see, some of the similar terminology, no fault evictions and things like that, that I think these things are coordinated. I hate to say around the country, that's around the world, that would seem like a conspiracy, but you see a lot of the same things going on in the UK as you see in, say, New York and other major cities in America, and that these no-fault evictions and things like that are being pushed around the country, in some cases around the globe, at least in the international cities. Here's another article. Share this tab instead. And this is from 2023, last year, December 2023. Massachusetts should ban evictions during the winter months. With shelter system overwhelmed, ban is needed more than ever. Now, a couple of days ago, we talked about how Massachusetts, Boston in particular, is housing migrants in motels all outside of the city. And now look at this, talking about banning. They're talking about banning evictions during the winter months. Hell, it's winter in Massachusetts 4 or 5 months out of the year. What's up, son, dude? How's it going?
Morning, sir. How you doing?
Hey, I know you're the landlord, right? Some dude, you own a property, not your home, right?
Yeah, my mother-in-law lives in it right now, so she's 84, so we'll probably rent that one out.
Yeah, you may be in the landlord game sooner or later.
Yeah. You know what's crazy about that headline is I wonder if she has a car payment, if she has internet, if she has 15 streaming services, if she eats Uber Eats every night. You know, a lot of these people, they get evicted, but they don't live within their means.
Well, the free rent becomes part of their means. It becomes a transfer of wealth from
Right.
them to you.
Right.
And so now they end up living better than they've ever lived because, well, now they're living free. So, of course, they're not going to cook meals from home. They're going to be ordering Uber Eats more than ever because you've now given them a rent subsidy, like Section 8. But let's look into this article, and then I'm going to go into some of the factors that I use or that I've used to perform I call it a hood credit check. What do you think about that, some dude?
Yeah, I was listening to you talk about it last night. It was pretty funny.
It was kind of funny. Yeah, so we're going to cover it again for the people that didn't see it. We'll give them another shot at it. What's up, Angel? I have Angel popping in here. So
hey, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Morning, Angel.
And if you look at what I said about the last article, which was a UK article, I said you're starting to see some of these things become international, but they're definitely across this country, so they're domestic. In France, evictions are banned from November the 1st to March 31st. Who in their right mind would pay rent? Who would work 2 jobs to pay rent if you knew you couldn't get evicted? The pressure just wouldn't be there. So that families are not put out when the weather is too cold for survival on the streets. Here in the United States, cities like DC and Chicago, they ban evictions during cold weather too, as well. I've long heard of people here in DC talk openly about, well, you can't get evicted in the wintertime. You can't even get evicted when it rains here. This is a built-in excuse not to pay rent. And both New York and Connecticut have bills pending in their legislatures that would permanently ban most evictions during the winter months. Did anyone know this? People in the chat, people on the panel, did you know this? That these kind of laws existed?
No.
I didn't either.
You know that? Okay, yeah.
I know that when you live in California, it's hard as hell to get evicted in the state already. That's kind of what's deterring me from getting a rental.
Yeah, no, I've heard that sentiment many times before. Despite the frigid weather in Massachusetts, they have no such protection. I guess it hasn't been an issue thus far, right? People have either figured out a way they pay their rent in the winter times or they negotiate with the landlord. Now, I want you to listen to the excuses they're making. The current absence of affordable housing alternatives has been well documented. This is exacerbated by a family shelter system, capacity turning people away, despite the promise of a right to shelter, and on it goes. You know, I've talked with you several times about the migration issue that we're having in America. This was probably prior to the migration issue really getting acute in Massachusetts. They're about to empty out a lot of these shelters. A lot of these migrant shelters, they're not going to be able to keep paying that amount of money for them forever. And they're going to fall up under the same laws. And these are going to be men, by and large. And if they don't want to pay, you're going to have to figure out a way to get them out. And we've already discussed it. The courts are getting more and more stringent on evictions. So you put the wrong person in, you can't put them out in the winter. You can't put him out if he only owes under 600. And I'm going to show you some more articles. And here's one that I want to show you. And if you put two and two together, you start to see a theme here or a pattern. Let's take a look at this article. This is out of Connecticut. But again, none of this is happening in a vacuum. Renters push for ban on no-cause evictions. But see, CT lawmakers are wary. You know, what is a no-cause eviction? Let's see what it says. Renters packed in the state capitol on Thursday. pushing legislation that would guarantee lease renewals in most cases. What do you think about that, some dude?
Man, they're always going to take care of like the people that don't like the quote unquote less fortunate. You know, they don't want to throw people out in the cold because those people will vote for them. And we need to do some kind of laws where if you collect government benefits of any kind, you don't get a vote because you're just going to keep voting to give yourself a pay raise from the government. It's a vicious cycle. And
It's kind of like,
they're gonna see it with all these migrants coming in. If we get Biden for 4 more years, good luck ever getting another conservative in office.
now I think you're definitely right, but regardless of who's in the presidency, the cities are going to have to deal with these problems. And once you've imported 10, 20,000 men,
Yep.
that's a hell of a problem to have to deal with.
Yeah.
Many of these cities can't even run their own housing authorities. Buildings that already exist, all they have to do is maintain them. So they're not going to be able to put those migrants in those buildings. The buildings are usually pretty crowded anyway, so the migrants are going to have to go into these homes. The people are going to have to go into the homes. And they're going to roll into people's homes with a hell of a lot of protections if they don't decide to pay rent. They urge lawmakers to ban no cause. So let's see what a no cause eviction is. What they want to guarantee that your lease renews. Are you familiar with how this works in many of these inner cities? Some do.
I'm not.
So let's say you have a 12-month lease with someone, and you don't really like the tenant. The tenant's been dragging her ass paying. And you say, you know what? When the lease is up 12 months, you just find you another place to live. You be upfront with the person and say, hey, I'm not going to be renewing your lease, so on and so forth. That's not legal. In DC, the lease automatically renews month to month. So at the end of the 12 months, you can't just say, hey, time to go. No, they roll into a month-to-month lease. So what these people are saying here is that they want guaranteed lease renewals, probably in a 12-month term. It really makes so. One of the ways that I've worked to get around this is I just don't rent anyone long term anymore. You're not going to pay me every month. I'm not signing a 12-month lease with you. I never have, but I definitely don't do it now. You're on a weekly, daily basis. In a country where they're passing all the laws in favor of the tenants for leases and things like that, well, you can't give people leases anymore. That's how that works for me. If I got a guarantee renew your lease, well, I just won't give you a lease and I don't have anything to renew. Doesn't that make sense? Here's one of these. Go ahead.
How's that work with your tenants? Do they get pissed off when they hear that?
Well, I think, and this is the next point I want to make is, and I'm going to do a show about this. Well, I think I'll show you a little bit now. And I know I'm going off topic here. But I started going into this a while back. But I want to show you something. And this is what I think most landlords, or most people that aren't in the business are unaware of or whatever. You just don't take into account because you're so afraid of the downside that you can't really focus on the upside. Does that make sense? And so let me show you something from my. Let me know if you can see my screen.
No, you're gonna have to read that. I'm blind as hell.
No, I'm not gonna read it to you. Well, I'm not gonna. Don't worry about reading. But what I want to show you is the level of demand. You may be able to see that. But here are messages that I get on Facebook Marketplace, and you can see it's almost every day. Almost some of them I don't even respond to. So many. They're all looking for a place to live. And so as a landlord, I think, unlike the old days when you dealt off Craigslist and you didn't have much information before the person showed up, I think that now the ball is kind of in the landlord's court in that you get all of the information you have at your fingertips, all of the information about the people before they come into your home. which is letting me think that Facebook and these other social media platforms are going to be like the new age credit score. You'll be able
Right.
to analyze. You'll be able to analyze someone's credit or credit profile by looking at his friends on Facebook, the things that he posts on Facebook, he or she. And I think that's going to be a much more effective measure of tenant quality going forward than credit scores, because the cities are going to do everything in their power to block you from getting that information. Let me see if I have another article up here to further prove what I'm talking about here. I know that there is and I don't know if I pulled that article up, but there was an article. Oh, I think I have it here. And let's see if here's another article I want to share with you before I get into the how to do a ghetto credit check here. Let's see what this article is about. Share this tab instead. All right. So DC is revising their eviction ban, and of course, it's going to go always go in favor of the tenants. Again, this is back 2021, but a lot of these laws have remained in effect now. Yeah, please get the likes up, by the way. And so again, I think it's more important now than ever to be able to analyze the quality of tenants before they come into your property. We've covered this one as well. So let's do a little exercise of what I normally do when I'm looking for tenants. When tenants come my way, I kind of have to judge them. And again, I told you I don't use a credit check. So how do I effectively measure these people to see who should or should not be rented to? And so last night, some dude, if you were on the channel, I started off with the men. Is that correct?
Yeah.
How many people in the panel in the chat last night? This was my channel last night. I kind of like front run the story I was going to talk about anyway. But let me share this one more story before we get into the ghetto credit checks. Let's see. Here's another article here in DC, 2023 November. When facing evictions, some DC renters will now get free lawyers. That's very true.
Ain't nothing free.
Well, that's true. The lawyers are being paid more or less by the landlords who are fighting against them. So here it is. More local low-income tenants facing eviction in the district will soon arrive in court with something that has been shown to keep families in their homes and in some cases ensure they don't lose access to government housing assistance. A lawyer, all paid for by the government, to fight against hardworking, productive citizens, many of them that own one or two properties. You go into the landlord-tenant court, you're now fighting someone who's been given a lawyer, and you got to hire your own. You know how much lawyers are in Washington, D.C.? A landlord-tenant lawyer, and there aren't many, but they charge about $500 an hour.
When you add up all the benefits that someone gets for subsidies through rent, subsidies through food stamps, subsidies through a phone, subsidies through a lawyer, I mean, it just keeps going, and it's it's kind of like we were talking about the university system last night. It's a grift that's set up through the government so they can just keep siphoning off money. And these motherfuckers print this money, and it just keeps driving down the value of our dollar and rising the cost of everything. And it's all in the name of helping out, black and brown folks. And which, look, man, I don't want to see a mother and her kids starving on the streets. I mean, I don't want to see that, but it's like you were pointing out last night. Look at them all. They're all fat as hell. Ain't none of them starving. This ain't, these kids aren't walking around with pot bellies and flies on their face. They're well fed. And it's kind of depressing in a way.
Yeah, if you look at it from one angle, again, this is primarily one of the reasons why I've tried my best and I've been very successful at not having to evict tenants. Because I equate it to like home field advantage in sports. When you get tenants in these inner cities that can't pay their rent, I've had them outright tell me, take me to court, man. take me to court. Because they know that that's where they get home field advantage. They can win there, if that makes sense. And so
That makes sense.
they get lawyers, and any type of deferment in terms of scheduling, the baby's sick, whatever, to catch COVID, the judge gives them all kinds of leniency. Let's scroll down the article. I think there was one more thing I wanted to point out here. So they're saying if you have government assistance, an eviction against you can be, devastating. But here's what's interesting. In the district, rents have climbed year over year, and housing vouchers remain hard to get and slow to reach people. Being evicted can mean being pushed out of the entire city. That's very true. Or being forced into homelessness. Years ago, I used to put ads on Craigslist, and I'd say, hey, if you've been evicted, don't even call me. I don't want to hear you. I don't care what the excuse is. If you took it 12 months, a year, 2 years, living in someone's house and got evicted, that means you just lived there for free for a very long time. You could have easily moved. So I would just say, hey, no evictions. Don't rent to people who's been evicted. Don't do it. Maybe someone where eviction is started, you might want to take a chance on him. But you definitely do not want to rent to someone that has let the case go all the way to completion with an eviction. I don't think those people are trustworthy at all. So last night I started out with a kind of a hood credit check. You figure that most people in the hood, in lower income neighborhoods, they all have bad credit. And so, how do you judge these people with bad credit? Right? You can't even judge them by credit anymore. And so you say, well, what do I use to judge the black women, and men, for instance, to assess their credibility? And so last night I started off going through, and I'm going to share this tab. Let's see if I can share my screen. I started off going through just a tab of some people, women, well, men last night, but I Googled black women arrested because most black women that are arrested live somewhere. And many of them are going to be fairly young. And I wanted to just go through the women now and see if we can, which one, we can say, hey, play a game of which one would you rent to or hire if you had to hire one?
Probably one of the ones in the suit.
Let's look at this row right here. This row right here. We can take out the old lady. She's probably not looking to rent anywhere. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4. Which one would you rent to?
Probably far left, just because she looks a little bit more well kept. She ain't in the jail or getting arrested.
That's a transgender, by the way.
Oh shit.
I once rented to a transgender too. Black male transgender.
Yeah, no, you do you. I get it.
I mean, I didn't even know. But that's a man, by the way. You see the headline, black transgender woman. So that would be a man, right? So now you're left with these three. If you're going to choose from a woman, which one you choose?
It's rough, man. I mean,
it's rough.
It really is. And that's what's kind of, like I said, it's what deters me from wanting to get a rental, because I mean, if you get 2 rentals out in Cali, you could probably retire early, as long as you for 10 years you sink a lot of money into those houses, like as far as like paying them off. And then, get a 10-year plan, pay them off as fast as you can, throw like 3 mortgage payments at them a month until the motherfucker's paid off. Then you have a rental, and then you can cut back your hours or go do something else that you find there's a little bit less in the corporate grind. But fuck, man, if you can't throw people out in Cali, it's rough. And I got a friend who's a property manager. She was saying she was renting to, she was managing people who were PhDs and masters, and they weren't paying during COVID. And she's like, motherfucker, I know you have the money to pay the rent. And these are white folks. And they would not pay. They were like, sorry. She's like, you know what? Once this fucking goes, I'm throwing your ass out. But the state won't let anybody throw anybody out anymore. California, it's California out here, man. It's rough.
Yeah, that's one of the things I noticed after COVID, and we can speak freely about COVID here, is that I honestly think that it debates the morals of the populace. If
Yeah.
that makes sense. And that people that would normally pay their rent decided not to pay rent anymore, and to basically get one over on the landlord. And I think it is forever changed America. At least for the rest of my lifetime, I think landlords are going to be very, very risk averse, and they will charge people. They're going to add premiums due to all of these laws put in place to favor the tenants. Was this get crack for me? Let's go back through some more of these. Let's do just a little exercise here. I guess they've been arresting this old lady a long time. Here's a good look. Look at this. You see this row right here?
Yeah.
Which one you pick here, some dude? You can't really see her, but you see these four. Which one you pick, some dude?
These are rough, man, because they're all like you googled, arrested and click image. I mean, it probably for me they'd be that one black chick in the next to the one in the green hair. But once again, it's like, what are they? I don't know what they're getting arrested for. Man, shit, I got a DUI. You know what I mean? If it's something as simple as a DUI, but then again, I've watched enough Awk Nation and to see these videos of these chicks they could have a PhD or be a judge or be, a police officer, and they're still ratchet as fuck.
Yeah. And again,
and then they bring them with them too. Like they'll have their man over there, and then they might have 2-3 different men. Then they get in a scuffle, and then you got to deal with that shit. It's like you're doing God's work.
And this is what I'm saying. Like, you have to be very, very careful. This is one of the reasons why I've never slept with a tenant. Can you imagine sleeping with one of these women?
I bet you they throw it at you too to try to get the rent down.
Oh man, they wouldn't pay any more rent. That would be the last day they paid.
Right.
And again, like this one here probably is the best looking one. The second one.
Yeah.
Maybe her. But again, one of the things I started weeding out how I would do like a ghetto credit check. When I used to show places, I show it early in the morning. Come by at 9 o'clock. And the only excuse acceptable to me was I got to be at work. Anything less than that, I wouldn't rent to them. Because I wanted to make them at least show me that they can get up early. And then once they got there, I wanted to see how they look. If they had Air Jordans on, they're probably not going to be reliable. We walked through it last night with the men with the braids. But with the women, a lot of times, if you look at like this woman, one of the reasons why I might be highly check her, she's not spending a lot of money on her hair. She doesn't seem to have lashes. She looks fairly modest. I don't know what she did without even digging through her background. She looks like she's, a little, not here. At least this girl has a smile on her face. She has a smile. But when you look at this girl, like there's nothing there. You can't rent to her. And partly because, go ahead.
She got them dead eyes, dude.
Mm-hmm. And the thing is, she can't go work anywhere. If she's working somewhere and she loses her job, it's over.
You ever flown out of Houston?
No, never.
Man, I was in the Houston airport on a business trip, and this old black lady was helping me at a pizza parlor, and she was the meanest little bitch, like acting like she was doing you a favor, and it was like getting shitty with the lady in front of me, and I just was laughing, and she was looking at me, staring at me, and I was just laughing, and I was like, I'll just take that slice right there. But it's like you said, you get them a job, but they get pissed off. They're pissed. When they get pissed, they get pissed.
Yeah, and they'll lose their job. There's been so many times I've had someone put them in one of my homes, and then they lose their job over the damn silliest, stupidest reason.
Right.
And now you're stuck with someone who's now unemployed. And the other thing is, oftentimes these people have very little family support. They have family, but they don't have family support, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And so they can't go anywhere. They can't say, well, I'll just go back to mama. Can't do it. Mama won't take them. So now look at this, bro. Look at these people here.
Yeah, some rough
Now,
women.
now people want to say, well, why did you search black women arrested? Hell, black women arrested live somewhere when they're not in jail. Don't they live somewhere?
Right.
They live somewhere. Either they got their own place or they live with a man.
You know, in their defense, you know, I got a mugshot and it don't look good either. But you know, it'd be rough to rent to, you know, like because I come from the same place they do, but it's just on the other side, you know, where yeah, you know, it's like you said, I ain't got no mama to go back to. My dad is a meth head, so there's nowhere to go. You better fucking swim or you're gonna sink. And unfortunately, a lot of these young ladies end up getting like I bet you how many kids that each one of these have, you know, two, three, maybe three different baby daddies. It's just and it's a stereotype I know, but it's there's a lot of truth to it as well. Like it's a stereotype because it's true.
Hey, some dude, you have children?
I do not have children, bro. My
A
sister's
buddy
got
of
one.
mine said, a buddy of mine, he's a landlord, and I'm going to get him on here one day. He came up with the theory that if you're an ugly woman, or if you're a pretty woman, let's rephrase it, your dad is more likely to help pay your rent. If you're not so ugly, dad might be hell. Pay your own rent.
Right.
And I will say this. I haven't had many black women that have been able to call up mama and dad and say, hey, mama, I'm paying on rent. It's like they're all out here on their own.
Yeah.
Which makes it even more difficult to rent to them because everyone needs a little familial support.
John, there's no fixing this. There's no fixing it. It's like this is generations of rot and decay in a culture that it's like no one says anything about it. There's nobody that talks down on it. They all defend like the elite will defend the lowest of the low, and it's just I don't see a cure for this, man. There's no solution to this. Like these women are they pump them out, man. I seen those little kids in the streets and that you were showing yesterday in that dirt lot looked like they were fucking in Afghanistan. And you know they're running around barefoot with busted pipes, waiting on someone to come fix it. And it's like, fuck, my neighbor had a big old puddle in his front yard, and I'm like, you got a lake going on there. He dug that shit up himself to save money and found a fucking leak in the main and fixed it himself. You know, you can fix things if you try and you care, but there's no pride in ownership or pride in anything. It's just I don't know how you fix it. And white folks are this way too. You know, I'm not trying to be
No.
racist about it,
Mhm.
but it's like I don't see how you fix this shit.
No, I'm not here to try to fix them or offer any solution to them. But what I can offer you is if you're out in the muck having to deal with them, if you're master cam and you're running businesses that deal with these people, or if you're a landlord like myself, you have to wade through these people. With Master Kim, he can't even wade through them. He has to let everyone come in the store.
Right.
And you got to be able to identify who's likely to cause problem, who's likely to steal in Master Kim's case. I mean, they steal from me too by non-payment of rent. But my only thing has been, how do I minimize this?
Right.
And when I look at it, I think there is some credence to a young pretty girl. Her family may help her. So that may be one thing. If you find a pretty girl, she's looking for a place to rent. Odds are her dad may help somebody, her boyfriend. She may find a boyfriend to help pay her. But if they're ugly,
Good luck.
ain't no help coming.
Yep.
The only thing you can find with them is typically if they have a government job. Them black women that help you cross the street, or them school crossers. Right?
John, when you were
Go ahead.
talking to Wicked yesterday about the Mexican culture, like Mexicans they're taking over Compton. Like what they'll do is they'll come in. They're kind of like the Arabs and the Hindus. They'll come into an area. They will maybe live a whole family in a house, save their money, buy that house, and then buy the next one, or the next family will buy it. They'll set up vendors and whatnot, and stores in their neighborhood, and they'll run those vendors and stores. Where in the black community, you could go back to the 20s and the 30s, and blacks did those things. They would buy the property, they would have their own businesses, and they would go to black-owned businesses. But with the war on poverty, that all went away, and no one supports like black business. And like you're doing them a favor by renting to them, and I'm sure they shit on you.
Yeah, and that is the thing. It's interesting that you mentioned that, and that I've often thought like the landlords in these ghettos, the inner cities, are often the lender of last resort. If they don't have their rent, whenever the rent's due, effectively they're asking me for a loan, right? They say, "Hey,
Right.
Can I borrow some money till I get, can I continue staying here until I get the money that I owe you?" That's a loan.
Yeah.
And landlords try to get around it by tacking on late fees and stuff like that. I don't think that really works. If they're constantly late, you'd be better off just getting rid of them. That's just my
Right.
own opinion. But a lot of times you don't want to get rid of them because you're so afraid of, well, he's been paying me, he's just slow. I think it's far better to just get rid of them. What I found is that no one takes charity nicely. You give someone a break on their rent, they just factor it in as the rent. And what the new payment of rent that they're paying you, that becomes the rent in their mind. And you're not even giving them a discount anymore.
Right. Oh man,
That makes
my
sense.
dad was that way. Man, my dad was that way. He was always late on the rent. Never had new cars. Always had a used piece of shit. Always begging the landlord for a couple extra days. But he would take his paycheck on a Friday and go spend it all on booze and drugs, and then
Yeah.
have nothing left over. And it's just if he did anything, he taught me how I didn't want to be when I grew up. But it's like when I loan someone money, I don't like in my mind, it's like I'm never getting it back. I'm like, so I don't loan money out.
Yeah.
Motherfucker, I'll give you some money if you need it, but I'm not going to loan it to you because I'm guaranteeing you I'm not going to get it back.
Did I ever tell you about the business? My cousin and I ran loaning money. Did I ever tell you about this?
No.
Within the ghettos, man, there's a big informal economy. I'm sure you're aware of this in the Hispanic community, right?
Yep.
And so within the ghettos, particularly after they banned a lot of these, what do they call them? Payday lenders. So the people still need to borrow money. So they go to informal places. So I had a cousin that was working driving a bus. They're like bus depots where all the bus drivers hang out, things like that, right? And they ended up borrowing money from him. And I'm telling you, we would loan these guys money for the most frivolous things, birthday parties, things like that. And you'd just be amazed that, the amount of money they would borrow for birthdays, a little mini vacation down to Virginia Beach or something like that. And so I think that loaning money, particularly in this economy, probably not a bad deal if you can find people that will pay you back. Have you heard of buy now, pay later?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I've seen it. It used to be called layaway where I was from.
Well, layaway, they
But
held the
get
item until you paid for it.
Yeah.
Correct?
Now they'll give it to you, and then you can
Right.
rent to own is another one.
Mm-hmm. Well, so one of the things that there was an article in the paper the other day. I'm going to see if I can find it. Buy now, pay later. These people are not reporting to the credit bureaus. Are you familiar with that?
So they don't get reported if they don't pay.
Yeah. Well, maybe they get reported if they don't pay, but the amount of credit that they have outstanding, say with Klarna or PayPal, is not reported on their credit. So if they maxed out their credit cards, they can go buy now, pay later, and get some more credit. It's not going to show up on their credit report. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
All right. And so what I found is that a lot of people that even book my places now, they pay with buy now, pay later. So in other words, someone may book my place for 3 days, 4 days. he may end up paying for that place for a month. Long after he's gone, he's still paying for it.
Because he
And what
didn't turn it off.
I'm sorry?
Because he didn't turn it off on the app.
No. So let's say you have you want to book a room for $200. Just use some round numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Buy now, pay later will say, hey, pay us $50 now and 3 payments of $50 by the end of
Okay.
July, right?
Gotcha.
So the guy's only staying for 3 days. He didn't have the $200. He had 50. So he used buy now, pay later and checked out with Airbnb. Airbnb allows buy now, pay later as an option. So he uses buy now, pay later. He only pays $50. And by the end of July, he will have paid off for his stay. Does that make sense?
Yeah, oh yeah.
And so what I realized is that these people are now not very price conscious to the Airbnb, to their housing. Because again, many of these people are living in my places under Airbnb, if that makes sense.
Yep.
They're not getting 12-month leases anymore. And you can see why. I've shown you the articles as to why. So what they're doing now is they're just booking Airbnbs and just bouncing around. And from time to time, I'll say, hey, man, there's no need to pay all the taxes and fees from Airbnb. But they say, hey, I only have to pay a portion of it if I book on Airbnb, even though I'm paying more. The taxes, the fees, the cleaning fees. But if I were to pay you, I have to have all the money up front. So I'll pay a little bit more on Airbnb because I don't have the money.
But I mean,
Go ahead.
There's like this deep-seated like hustle in them where it's like they're gonna hustle at everything they do, and if they just don't get it, it doesn't connect in the head that if you spend so much time out there hustling in the streets trying to find a place to stay for the night, trying to get your next dollar for this and that, if you just put that hustle into being a landscaper or a plumber or an electrician or going in and framing, you could probably work 40 hours a week and make a decent living and not have to do this hustle all day long, all week long, all month long of just trying to bounce around and you'll be stable. But it doesn't click for quite a few.
Well, to their defense, or in their defense, I think since COVID, my whole business model changed.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that many other landlords' business model changed as well. I've seen entire buildings go from regular rentals to what do they call it? Short-term rental buildings. Let me show you one.
Hey
Let me
John, I'm
yeah.
gonna be in the background, man. I gotta drive into work and my Jeep's loud as hell.
Okay,
So
sure, go right ahead. Yeah.
take care, brother.
But yeah, so many of these rentals have turned into Airbnb rentals over the last couple of years, where the landlords, the owners of the buildings, have decided to just turn them into short-term rentals. It's much more profitable, and with the laws and things like that, it's easier to evict a tenant, things like that. And so again, I think that gets you around credit checks and the schemes by these city governments to hide that information from you. But last night, again, I'll go back and I started doing a kind of a hood ghetto credit check. And for those of you that weren't here, you've seen the black women. Credit check. So let's take a look at the black men credit check. So we're going to try to look at some men here and see. I'm going to see if we can come up with some interesting characteristics of black men. And I'm going to select for arrested because hell, a lot of black men have been arrested. I have. A lot of black men still live somewhere, even if they've been arrested. So let's take a look at some of the black men arrested in America. And I'm curious to know which ones that you would rent to if you had your druthers, if you had the pick between the people. And let me see if I can find a good representative sample here. I don't want to show any too bad here. Give me 1 second. But anyway, one of the other things when I'm doing a credit check, I'll often ask them the information I think is very important. Let me give you an example of what I mean. I know that evictions, I can't find that out anymore, or can't find it out as easily. So one of the things I'll do is just ask them. I'll say, hey, I'm not holding it against you, but have you ever been evicted before? And they'll tell you. They will know that I can't find it out. They can lie to me and say, no. But they oftentimes just tell you. And again, I think last night I was showing some black men. I said, well, look at the shoes they have on. If you're really trying to analyze, should you or should you not rent to someone? Hey, make them show up early. Make them show up on time for an early appointment to see the place. That's a good point. If they can make it, most of them won't be able to make it. The ones that can't, well, you can't rent to them. Then you have the shoes, particularly for a black man. If he shows up with Air Jordans and he's over 21, which means you're probably gonna, someone in your rental pool, don't rent to them. Period. Don't rent to them. People gonna say, well, why? It's just Air Jordans. Maybe you showed up in it. If you're working, in my opinion, if you're working hard for your money, and particularly if you don't make a lot of money, you can't spend your money on frivolous stuff like that, Air Jordan. So if you see a potential tenant show up with Air Jordans, can't rent to him. Same thing goes for like fancy clothes, belts, accessories, stuff like that. I would even go so far as to say I wouldn't rent to men, and I know Rasheed may be in the audience here, but I wouldn't rent to men with dreadlocks, period. And you say, well, why not? And there's going to be more to it than what you think it. And I'm going to show you why. Let me know if you can see my screen here. And what you see is, here are all these young men with dreadlocks, black men dreadlocks. Now, we understand Rasheed has dreadlocks, so I'm not picking on people with dreadlocks. But you have to do some future prospecting of, can this guy find work if he loses his job? Do you think this guy is going to be able to find work if he loses his job? He's too what kind of work? Because he's so concerned with the patterns in his head. Is this guy going to get down and dirty with his dreadlock mohawk? Probably not. Here again, another dreadlock. You have to start asking yourself, if this is the image of the black male with dreadlocks, why put yourself with this and put yourself behind the 8 ball? Not all of them are, look like particularly bad tenants. But again, I say to you, if either one of these guys lose their job, will they cut their dreadlocks off to be more presentable in the job market? This guy's growing his dreads very long. I doubt it. There's certain jobs he can't even work because of the dreadlocks. Even the guys in the video that I showed you, that the ones I put out, both of them had dreadlocks. Both of them had a hard time finding work. Look at these guys. Can you pick one that you would rent to? Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 5 men. Put 1 through 5. Which one do you think you'd rent to? Which one do you think would have an easy time finding a job if he lost his job? Which one do you think would cut his dreadlocks off to be more presentable in public? I would probably say this guy here and probably this guy here. Yeah. He probably can make a living, as a waiter or something like that. This guy here probably work in an office somewhere. Maybe he cuts hair. But these guys are going to have a hard way to go. This guy, particularly this guy. He's going to have a very hard time making a living, short of doing something, cutting hair or something like that. And on it goes. I want to show you black men arrested that had some pretty good pictures. If I can pull them up. A white guy up here. I don't know if the pictures, they gave me a different algorithm this time. But anyway, I think the biggest point I want to make to you is that it's the shoes, it's the hairstyles. No man serious about working is going to like spend that much effort maintaining his hair. There's some exceptions, and the shoes. And I think that if you're in the landlord business or just in business in general, you have to be very wary of customers like these and try to filter through them as best as possible, because the government is doing their best to make it opaque view into their background here. But anyway, this is pretty much all I have to say today. Again, you can catch, if you want to see more about that, particularly from the men's standpoint, you can look at this stream last night. It was a continuation from CT's stream. Let's see. Someone says, Tony. Oh, I thought you were talking about Tony. Hey, good morning, Portia. Do I owe you a phone call, by the way, Portia? I know I got a couple emails from you, so on and so forth. Big John, you're going hard with the lie. Let's see. So I said, no, you picked the same one. There we go. Great minds think alike. Give credit to me. But anyway, any other questions? I'll go through the comments for the next minute or so. Portia says, Garion, check your Discord. Good pro tip. Give crack to me. What does it say here? Jack the Baboon. Oh, by the way, I know it's totally off topic, but I saw that Julian Assange was released. I think I saw it last night on CT's, and then I saw a headline for that in the morning. Wasn't he in like the Ecuador embassy or something like that? Anyway, not quite sure. Kind of off topic. Anyway, I don't see any more comments or questions, and if no one's joining the panel, I think that'll be it for today. Tomorrow, I think tomorrow I may be doing kind of a primer on Bitcoin. So I hope someone comes up that is a pro Bitcoin and advocate for it. Maybe you could teach some of us something about Bitcoin. I'm somewhat bearish on Bitcoin myself. What did he say? Yes, it was last night. He got thrown out of the embassy. So if they threw him out of the embassy, did they arrest him? I thought that he was going to be arrested if he was ever thrown out of the embassy. Daniel Nixon says, who is this saying he'll call in? Ryan, okay. You should have the StreamYard link. Let me put the link in here. There it is. So while we wait on Ryan, so did they arrest him? Like, or was he able to leave? He was in London, right? In an embassy in London or somewhere? I think that's correct. Someone joining here. Ryan, are you joining before we log off here? Yes, the U.S. took him after the U.K. got him. So he's in a U.S. prison now? Is he in prison in the United States? What's up, Ryan?
Hey, buddy, how you doing?
Nothing much.
I like the topic.
Is that right?
I don't understand why people want to have long hair. Right?
Yeah.
So
you mean men? You mean men?
Exactly. I don't understand it. So my daughter is engaged, and he won't keep his hair shorter, at least reasonably short. So I just don't understand it, because it's hot, it's summertime. Just go down the list. No, get down, dog. Go. Hold on, I got to get this dog down. He's being stupid. So I don't understand. And another thing is, so my other daughter, so I have a grandkid that's 1, and she wants him to have long hair. She's growing his hair out on him, right? I'm like, it's 97 degrees out, and this kid is almost 2 now. And I'm like, why would you want the kid to have long hair? I don't understand it. It might be cool, but it's not practical. In winter, I get it. You want to hold some of that heat in. But in summer, I just don't. 95 degrees, I don't get it. Why would you want that? So.
You think it's an aesthetic thing? This is a young child, right?
Yeah. Yes. And then in my other daughter's case, the fiance has longer hair. Right? He wants to have hair down. He wants to have longer hair because it's cool. And I don't know, man.
Let me ask you this.
Why are men so concerned with hair, right? It's just hair. Who cares?
Do you think
dead cells, it just grows. Who cares? Cut it off.
Do you think it's feminine?
Yes, I do. I absolutely. I think what's feminine about it isn't the length of your hair. It's how you want to fool with it that much, right?
Yeah.
Look, John, you got the same type of hair I do. It's short, it's trimmed, it's, you know what I mean? I can wash my hair with just soap.
Yeah.
And it's fine. It doesn't affect it. You don't have to have these, you don't have to use conditioner. And I got to be honest, when I got it cut the way I want, which is a little shorter than this, you don't have to comb it. You can just get out of bed and go to work.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So,
yeah,
I'm just, you know, but I see these guys messing with their hair for days. They're putting dreads in it. They're all, it's ridiculous.
Man, you know what's funny, Ryan? I was in jail in DC government. Hey, let me show you this, Ryan. You see this?
Yeah, I can a little bit. What is it? What's it say? I can't say. I can't read it. It's too far.
Let me blow that.
I'm half blind. I'm half blind.
If you can't read it, can everyone else read this? Like these are the type of silly ass messages that I get.
What's the other guess? The assistant was the other guest fighting with knives.
But listen, let me give you the context here. This is a person whose mother is paying his rent. Now, I've told you, oftentimes in the ghetto, a woman may have her child early.
Yes.
19, 20. So by the time she's 38, she got her new man.
Yes.
And oftentimes the man and the boy bump heads. That's not his daddy.
Yes. Not uncommon. Yes.
Right. And so what she will do is pay me or someone like me so that she can keep the man. I call it the dick. So she can keep the dick. Right.
I got you.
Right? And so here's this boy being pawned off on someone. So that his mama can keep the dick. And look at what he's doing in his free time while she's paying his rent.
Twisting his hair.
Yeah, getting his hair twisted. And these are the people again, like with the dreadlocks, right? Like, you know, like it's something like, look at this, right?
I don't understand it. It's a lot of energy that goes into men's hair, right? And it really is, man. Like, why waste the time? Look, I even see a lot of these female MMA fighters, they braid their hair down tight, right? That's got to how long does that take, right? That's got to take a lot of time.
I have no idea. I would imagine so, though.
And I can't
imagine, on how much hair they have, right?
I can't imagine just committing that much time to this thing. And again, these are the women fighters, right? But the men fighters, it just seems to me crazy. I look at how much time my wife takes getting ready, and it's mind-blowing. She also brings 40 products traveling. She's got a product for every part of her body.
Yeah.
I got deodorant, a toothbrush, toothpaste, you know, the basic stuff.
Yeah. Let me ask you this, right? Oh, did I tell you, did I finish the story when I was in DC jail?
No, you were halfway. You were halfway. Oh, well, you showed that clip of the one of your guests that was responding.
Yeah, you've seen the dreadlock that I pulled out of the drain, right?
No, I have not seen that.
You never seen the dreadlock I pulled out of the drain?
I mean, if it looks like Derrick Henry's, no, there was a football player where he had a dreadlock, and he got attacked. This is a couple years ago watching the game. And this dude tackled from behind, grabbed him by his dreads, and just tackled him. Right?
Yeah.
He had a handful of them when he came up.
Yeah.
And I was like, damn, because you can if your hair's coming out of your helmet, you can tackle like that, right?
Yeah.
Like you can tackle like that.
Yeah.
So
right. Go ahead. Let me show you that dreadlock I pulled out of the drain. I'm surprised I never shown it to you. I know I have a picture of it. Let me see.
Crazy.
Look at this, right? Look at this right here. You see that? You see that dreadlock right there?
Wow.
I mean, I'm telling you, man. Like,
I mean, that's impressive.
What do you mean?
It's impressive.
Look at the picture right next to it. You see this guy? Look, scratching the dreadlock with a hole in the wall right next to it.
That will. I mean, look. If your drain if it's 2-inch pipe, you're gonna have problems. So, You know what I mean? I mean, essentially, it's like putting braided rope down the drain.
Yeah,
you know?
that's what it is.
Like
That's what it is.
it's pretty bad, you know. So
Yeah, that's what
that'll
it is.
jam up a drain quick, you know. So
Right.
just a couple pieces of hair and some soap will do it. Let alone, you know, like 1/2-inch braided rope, like you'd see on a ship.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
So-
Can you look at that first row and tell me which one of those guys you would rent to?
Well, based on the pictures, I think the guy all the way on the right's wearing orange. That's already a telltale. That's very questionable.
Well, they're all in jail. They've all been. These
Are
are
they?
black men with dreads that are arrested.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't
So-
know, man. I mean, look, a lot of things are dressed to me, right? So people ask me that question. If you're wearing, I can be easily deceived. If I see a person wearing a buttoned up out, you know, he's buttoned up, he's got like a suit on, he could be a career criminal, and I'll believe him. Like, oh, this guy's he's an upstanding man. He's obviously doing the Lord's work out here. So, you know, I'm a fashionist in that sense, right?
Yeah.
If I see a dude walking down the street like a Mexican dude with like a longer white t-shirt, I'm avoiding him. Because he's probably in a gang. He's in a gang. No. But no, usually it's by how people dress or present themselves that either gives me good or bad feelings, you know. So
and this hair negatively presents itself.
I look, to me, I mean, it depends. If the dude's like, if he's dressed well and he's got, like, you see the guy, hold on a minute. Hold on, let me see. Okay, hold on. Yeah. Top row, one to the right. To me, that's a manageable hairdo, right?
Right here?
Hold on. Yeah, that guy. Like, that's a manageable hairdo. He's got
if he walked in with his resume in hand, with his head looking like that, what would you think?
I don't think it's the end of the world. Like you know, like so it's up high. He's got the side shaved. It's not the end of the world.
All right. He may one day shave the top.
The guy
off.
on the left, I'd be like, look, man, you know, you should probably isn't that hard to deal with. You got it all hanging in your face. So, you know, but
What about this?
Yeah, I mean, how are you gonna deal with that all summer?
What about this one?
It looks like he needs a bit of a comb. He needs a comb job. Plus, he's got it hanging in his face. Go to the right. At least it's up off his face. It would be very uncomfortable to me. You know what I mean? And that when I see my grandson, he's got that hair all in his eyes. It would drive me bananas. It would drive me insane. You know. So if you go to the guy in the lower side, or hold on, now it's the upper right. Like at least he's got a part in it. It's not the end of the world. Yeah,
right. This would look crazy as hell, man.
Well, look,
that word right there,
I'm
saying, crazy as hell, man.
Okay, his hairdo it works, but his face, yes, he looks like he's about to kill people. You know what I mean? About to delete people. So, you know, but any long hair on a man, I just think it's kind of a wasted effort. It's just too much time commitment for me, you know.
So which one of these guys would you rent to if you had to choose one?
Well, you just said all of them were in jail. So,
well, I mean, they got to live somewhere.
No.
Plenty of people have been in jail when they get out.
Well, I would try to find people that weren't in jail. Number one, right? Like
never been in jail.
You have a different client base,
right.
You know, I don't want to deal with all that. Like when I was doing rental, it was, you know. Now, granted, mine were year leases, and it was. I probably, like I said, I say it all the time. Like I probably broke even at best, right? Like they just paid the mortgage for me after I had to fool around with it. But I don't know. I tell people a lot. They'll talk about rentals. I'm like, you either own 0 rentals or you got to own a bunch of them because
you got to own one. Yeah,
it is a pain. I got a broken screen, just like you said the other day. Then I'm out there fooling with the screen. Then the dog runs through the next screen. Then you know, they got a jammed up toilet and there's like a whole pack of Legos stuffed down in there. Just one thing after another with these people. Yeah. So I was like, and then I mean, look, it ended up being the last one I had. I said, look, here's the deal. I think I was charging them $1,600 a month. I said, I'll do it for $1,400. You do your own maintenance. I never come out here ever, and I'll do $1,400 a month. But you're gonna fix everything. You're gonna fix screens. You're gonna fix toilets. You're gonna fix the whole place.
How did
And
that work out for you?
You know what? It wasn't bad. Like there was a point where they treated it very well. Like they fixed the screens. Like I'd go inspect it every so often. They did a good job, and they said like we want to buy it at one point. They wanted to buy it, right? So they weren't gonna. They were putting their energy into it, hoping to buy it, and then in the end they said, "Well, we don't want to buy it now," and then they left. So, but I think because they had the idea they were going to buy it, they were willing to invest some energy, you know. And the guy could fix stuff. He wasn't. I mean, I think they put a pellet stove in it. They did some things to it to upgrade it. You know, they put some kind of gas stove maybe, but and then
Would you ever be a landlord again?
Like I said, 30 units or none. I mean, if I had enough rentals to sustain a living based on just doing that, I would do it. Right? Like just doing that, I can make more money. I would do it. But I'm not going to be a part-time landlord and get phone calls about dumb, you know, stupid stuff. Right? You know what I mean? I don't want to get stupid phone calls.
Yeah.
So,
I hear you.
I mean, what I had in a sense. So in commercial property, there's what they call a triple net lease. Okay. I essentially, so I essentially created a triple net lease with the last tenant where they're responsible for the maintenance, all the stuff. I basically give them a shell, right? Now it had more than a shell in it, but they put carpet in it. So they were, this was probably about 7-8 years that we had an arrangement, but it was essentially it was like a triple net, right? So that worked, but I wouldn't just like what you're doing. Seems like you would be very busy. It seems like you'd be very busy if you had to work all the stuff you're doing because you got a ton of rentals and then you got to get rid of them, bring them in. I mean, it seems like it'd be a lot of activity, but do you do that part of it?
Man, you know, when I first started out, you know, clearly years ago, man, giving people keys, they lose their keys, they lose the key to their room, then they kick the bedroom door in so they could get in their room. But with the smart locks, did I ever tell you what kind of smart locks I use?
No.
I like Yale, and for the exterior doors, and Sifley for the
So it's almost like a hotel key.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like I very rarely see the people, you know, let's have them in and out of their places, but smart locks, everything, they check themselves in, they check themselves out. So that makes it a lot easier.
That's got it. Otherwise, you got to have a key cutter machine at your house. You know what I mean? Because you're going back like you're at Home Depot, constantly getting keys cut. That would aggravate the hell out of me.
And then keeping up with all those keys, you know, that would be a hell of a.
I wouldn't want to.
I'm taking, you know, I've had to do that. You know, key to this, key to that. Hell, just keeping up with which key goes to what, you know, can be a challenge.
You know, it's an interesting question because I've thought about more diversification. Like I'm mainly in the market, right? And I'm like, you know, maybe I should consider getting into something like that. But I think I would get a property manager to deal with it because it's just a pain. And then the other thing is, you know, I think I was saying on one of your streams, like I accepted, they were like 2 months into me, they don't rent. And then they sent me a check and I was like, all right, well, thank God I got some money. It was like it was short, of course.
Yeah.
And then it started over the whole deal, right? The eviction thing. So I didn't know a lot about it. And then I learned as I went, but that triple net was good because I never went there. He fooled with everything. It worked out. You know, the money went straight in my account and they upgraded parts of the place, you know? So that worked out, but I don't know. What about you ever think about just buying land, John?
No, not really. Although I've heard the upsides of it, you know, you can sell the timber and stuff like that off of it. And maybe been you that was telling the story about it.
That's what I'm kind of researching now because you don't have to do anything to this. You can just, you know what I mean? You don't even have to go there, right? It just, and if it's in a decent area, like let's say you get like, you know how you go down 301 on DC, just into Montrose, Virginia, right? Like you got to figure right over the bridge that 301. What's it called? The Nice Bridge.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm talking about? You go down 5 and you keep going. Right?
Yeah.
You got to figure down there, it's further out than DC commute, but it's got to be going up in value. You buy farmland there, you just hold it. It's going to go up every year. I mean, they're not making more land, right? So I've been really considering it.
But hold on, Ron. When you say you buy farmland, are you saying it's already a farm there, or you just buy it and turn it into a farm, or let somebody else?
They have state auctions, they have repossessions, all kinds of stuff like that. They have estate sales where they just, hey, it's 60 acres of land, right? And then developers might buy. Different people buy it, right?
Right.
I don't know. I got a buddy though. He said that. He said, you know, you buy a house, you rent it out, you got to maintain it. And I told him it always goes up in value. He goes, well, don't go there for 20 years. Don't even rent it. Just don't go there for 20 years and see if when it's the roof is caved in, right? And I was like, good, you're right. Like, so I thought the whole land thing I've just considered, you know. So
I don't even think that houses always go up in value, to be honest with you. Like, have the houses in Baltimore gone up in value? I don't think so. Some of them go down quite a bit. Some of them going to zero. Probably
and they've these rates, and then also the, you know, they slash rates to zero. That drives the price through the roof of these houses, right? Just the buy price, because the monthly payment with interest plus principal, right? So, you know, at the end of the day, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't see it coming down in value, but I would think that houses would flatline for several years, you know, 5-10 years, you know, before we get a lot more increase in home pricing. I would think.
Did you see the streams? Several streams actually that I've done on the migrant housing. Here's one.
Well, yeah, I saw some of them where you were talking about and basically these people. Man, I don't know if it was yours or not, but people
look at this one here.
People are renting to the state basically for the migrants, right?
Yeah. And I think, you know, Massachusetts, they talked about how they're shipping thousands of migrants out to
into the counties. It must have been yours then. It must have been yours.
Right. And those people aren't going to stay in those counties for long, and they're not going to fund them in hotels forever. And once those people filter back to the cities, that demand for housing is going to keep the rents up. And by virtue of the way that they live, 3, 4, 5, 6 to a house, 10 to a house, it's going to drive the cost of housing up.
I would think that your setup with the short-term rentals would be. I mean, why don't you deal with the government? It's too much red tape.
Yeah. You know, you have inspections, and you know, you have all these different rules and things like that. People on Section 8. One of the things they never talk about for Section 8 is it's very difficult to get a rent increase, and it's very difficult to keep your rents up to par with the market. So you want to come in really, really high, and then hope that you can get the tenant out before they go under market.
I got you.
Rent. So, hey, we got free game up here. Free game. You have any questions, comments? You on mute, free game.
Man, yeah, buying land look like, you know, the way to go right now. Even though I haven't bought any land, but houses are seem to a lot to deal with. And I'm gonna ask the other guy what I asked you last night. What's your name up there?
Ryan.
Yeah. What it is? Both of y'all was talking at the same time.
Yeah, my name is Ryan.
Right. Have you ever dealt with like a professional tenant, like someone who knows like the law? You can't evict them off. It's hard to evict them.
Yeah, I had a couple tenants. So the one tenant was, I mean, they sent me money and I cashed it when they were short on rent, and then it started the whole eviction process over again. And I ended up getting a settlement in small claims court against them, and then they filed bankruptcy. I ended up getting I lost probably $3,000 in the end with them. And I would say she was somewhat of a professional. She knew all the little tricks. And then the second one was great. It was they were, that was like where they took care of it. I discounted the rent. They took care of the property. They did a great job. And then, that specific one. So, but I would say probably nobody that knows the laws in and out to know how to get over on the landlord.
Oh,
So,
okay.
yeah.
I've heard of it. I've never encountered one myself. I think the bigger issue is that they don't have to be professionals. They can be very crude at their job. Being a professional renter is what we used to call them. Because now the government has really stepped in. I don't know if you guys saw this article that I showed earlier. You see this? You can't see it. Let's see here. So in DC and many of these inner cities, they're getting lawyers, so they don't even have to be professional anymore. Once they walk into that courtroom, the lawyers take over. They can be as ghetto as hell as they want to be, because now you're fighting the government.
Wow.
Yeah, so it makes it very, very challenging.
It's so hard to do business with it's hard to do business with these. It's just it's impossible to do business nowadays,
Yeah.
It's just constant regulation with everything.
Yeah,
and they can't figure out why everything's so expensive. Someone was saying the other day there's rent controls in California. Maybe it was another stream. They got rent controls, and I'm thinking, how does, if you have rent controls, then how do you make any money? Like, it's got to be difficult, So
well, I think for this, for the certain landlords, they're all kind of cutouts, and if the building was built after this time, if it's been substantially renovated,
I got you.
Those type of things.
Go
ahead.
Let me ask y'all this: do y'all think it's fair? I mean, yeah, they have rent control, but do y'all think it's fair that Americans have to face the situation with the migrants and the availability for houses, and the rent is automatically going to go up? Do y'all think it's fair for Americans to have to deal with freeloaders, basically?
No, of course not. Of course not.
In the fact that the rent is going up.
I mean, so you're asking, do we think it's fair that people that have been paying into the system for years now have to pay substantially more because people that walked into the country under the Biden administration get free housing? No, we don't think it's fair. Absolutely not. I think it's terrible, actually, So
hey, Ryan, free game. Let me answer Stanley's question. Then I want to share something with you about these migrants free game that you may or may not be aware of. Stanley asks, are any of the migrants to be deported, John? I don't think so. Unless they commit a crime. I don't think one of them will be.
Supposedly they're deporting them now. Supposedly that the Biden administration has deported many migrants, and like Obama was. One thing about Obama was he deported a lot of people, man. He was the deporter in chief, but I don't think Biden can't hold a candle to him, probably. But
I think I've heard you say that many times, and I've heard that there is a distinction in that Obama did catch a lot of people and send them back at the border, but if they crossed the border, he looked the other way.
Okay, maybe.
And I guarantee you that there are more migrants at the end of his term here in America than there were when he first got to America. I'm not blaming him. I'm just saying that this is what it is. And I think that the same thing is going to apply to Biden. But here's something interesting that maybe you guys did or did not know. Let me see if I can pull it back up. All right, I'm going to pull it back up. Yeah. This is interesting. I found this one day. Have you guys heard of the Roosevelt Hotel in New York?
In DC, right?
No. It's in New York.
Is that the one where they were sticking all the migrants and it's like $500 a night?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I remember reading the story.
Are you able to see my screen?
I can't see it that well, John. I have bad vision.
Okay. I'll read it to you. Pakistan International Airlines. Host and son with an blah, blah, blah. The Roosevelt Hotel is one of several large hotels developed around Grand Central Terminal as part of Terminal City. Since 2000, Pakistan International Airlines has owned the hotel. How many of you knew that in the
I
chat?
don't know. I don't know.
You didn't know that, right?
No.
And
No idea.
these are foreign governments, and this is not just the only hotel. There are many hotels that are owned by foreign governments, like the Pakistani Airlines here, and they're making money hand over fist, hundreds of millions of dollars, renting to the migrants. They're not going to deport a meal ticket unless they come up with a
Yeah.
bigger and better one. And I just don't know how you can deport millions of people, that have probably started forming families by now. 6 months with single men here, able-bodied, young. They've started
Well,
making
if you can get in the country and have a baby, you're golden. I mean, that's
right.
because you're less likely to be deported. So,
So
I mean,
I should
supposedly Trump's going to deport all these people, but
yeah.
that is going to be so. Even if he wins, right, you're going to have the liberal media just showing mom and just oh my god, and the stories will be so bleeding heart that popular opinion will not sway it. And they'll push back and say it's racist and all this stuff. So that's
Well, I live out here in Texas, and man, the governor here, he's been deporting them, man. He's not even letting them get into Texas all the way before they catch him.
Yeah, I think a lot of the migration has moved out to California. Like Texas has done a great job in the recently with. So I think the cartels are like, okay, we'll just run them through California because, California's. In fact, I heard that there was a bill in California to give migrants the medical insurance, and I was like, all right,
California is just full of socialists, man.
It is. I know it's crazy.
It's going to have to. They're going to have to get the army to go down there and really set the tone.
Look at this headline here. Free. What's your name again? Free game. Texas new immigration law is blocked again. Let me make sure you can see it. Texas new immigration law is blocked again.
Police arrest people.
In other words, they are blocking Texas.
Oh, I know what that is. Yeah, that's for the just regular cops to arrest illegal migrants or suspected illegal migrants, I think. So,
Greg Abbott, he ignored it. Him and Biden is into it real bad over that.
Yeah.
They was trying to send people down here to stop him, but he just ignored it and So what he do is he say, okay, since you want to do the migrant, I'm gonna catch him. Since we can't arrest him, you didn't say we can't catch him and send him off to Chicago or New York. so
in those cities, Brandon Johnson is not happy with that. By the way, he's all pissed.
Wait.
He's pissed.
Here's 2 points I want to make. First, I want to address Stanley. More migrants at the end of every recent POTUS. He's only saying that because I mentioned Obama and Stanley's a Democrat. But the big difference, I think, is Obama sympathized with the migrants. He called them children. He created programs. He created programs, DACA, that was for them. He created an Obamacare that allowed them to sign up for Obamacare. He created a magnet for them.
Yeah, I think that's got to stop for sure. But I do know that Obama also understood the wage impacts of a lot of illegal immigration. He did a study on that. And
I don't think he did.
Well, he did a study on it that said that when you let in a lot of illegal immigrants, it has a negative impact on the lower end of the scale wages. So, I think that's why he was deporting a lot of people. But I don't know. I mean, it's interesting because his presidency, he switched on a lot of stuff and people don't know it, but he was a bomber. He was a drone strike. He drone struck a lot of people, man. And nobody knows that either. Like he won the Nobel Peace Prize and it was like, you know what? I'm going to celebrate with some drone strikes. And he blew up a lot of stuff, right? He blew up Libya. And I'm like, he won a Nobel Peace Prize. And then he was like, I'm going to go after him. So some of his policies I thought were great, by the way. But, it's kind of an enigma.
When I look around the ghettos in these inner cities, you have people who make a living giving out free phones.
Yeah.
That's what I see is Obama's legacy.
Yeah.
People giving out free shit.
Yeah.
So that they don't have to buy. And the phone is worthless. You hear people joking about it. That's his legacy. The nigga gave out worthless phones and made a job out of it. I once rented to a guy. He had his little table and shit, little canopy type tent. And I said, well, what do you do? And the nigga said, I give out free phones to welfare niggas. I said, that's a job?
Sure, you do it by mail, maybe. It's easy to just mail them, You just do it by mail, kind of,
Now they gotta have ID and all that. Well, hey, that's crazy. They have to have ID. We let them vote, but they
I don't understand that ID part. I'm like, everybody has an ID. Everyone has an ID of some sort. So, I don't know.
Back to Stanley. Stanley votes for this.
Well,
and that's what I find it so hard to believe. He votes for Obama, and Obama rolled out the red carpet for the migrants. He voted against Trump, and Trump wanted to send the migrants back.
Obama would be deemed a hard right conservative compared to Joe Biden currently.
Yeah,
Joe Biden's been just so left on everything. Like,
Obama was left too, man.
But not this guy's even further left than Obama was. Obama was, if you remember, I think Obama early on was against like gay marriage. Like he was, but Biden he's way left of Obama.
Well,
yeah,
I think
Stanley
Obama,
said he deported a lot of people. Stanley just said it. He aborted. He deported a good number of people, and he also used the military a lot as if he was on the right. But now the left uses the military like the right does. So,
and he also rolled out a lot of benefits. That DACA benefits, that DACA, whatever it's called.
Yeah, DACA.
It covered what from up to age 18. It gave them health benefits. It allowed them to go to college.
No, the biggest thing about Obama, John, is the legacy of the healthcare, the ACA will be, because it still hasn't played out yet, right? Like the fear was you're bringing on 30 million extra people onto the healthcare tab, right? And he was like, costs will go down, and costs have not gone down in any possible way. To me, it's just funded more. They got to find a way to make it more competitive, not just have the government. If the government pays, costs won't go down ever. There's nothing the government funds that costs go down. They go up, right? College costs go up. They started going up with government funding. Housing, when that's heavily subsidized, those costs go up. Colleges, healthcare, all these areas, the government gets in, and the business absorbs it. The colleges absorb the money and have gone up exponentially ever since. So, I knew it wouldn't go down when he was proposing, and I'm like, the government can't lower costs at all.
Do y'all think that we should? I'm on the level of extremeness, with some of my opinions. I think we just should go and just take Mexico. I really do.
I don't know if that's what we want to do. I mean,
yeah, that's pretty extreme.
I've heard that from a couple of people, and I'm like,
no.
I don't know if we want to do
if you
that.
can walk through my border and increase my prices and run drugs.
Look, you have the left calling us colonizers. I mean, they call everybody colonizers, right? You're colonizers. I mean, so I don't. I don't know if that's the right.
I mean, they did it to us. I mean, shit.
Make it a 51st state. I don't know if that's the right play, but
that is not going to work.
It'd be more than kind of annex you guys. I don't know if that's. But
I mean, we have so many Mexicans in this country now that if we would try to go over here and fight Mexico, hell, some of the people in our country would be fighting for Mexico.
They fight for
Oh
Mexico.
man,
Oh,
we can have Mexico in about 3 or 4 days, man.
I don't think so. But
hey,
then you'd have
John.
a country full of
John,
insurgents.
my phone's going to die here, man. I got to plug
Yeah,
this in. All right.
yeah, we got. Go ahead.
Yeah. All right. All right. I'll hit you later. Thank you.
All right, I see you on
All right.
CT's screen.
Yeah.
Hey,
See you, buddy. All right. Bye.
Pre-game, any last words before we roll out of here?
I'm good, man. Have a good one, man.
Same to you, my man. I'm glad to see you join today. All right, so I'm gonna wrap this up. May jump over to CT stream later. Thanks everyone for joining. I hope you enjoyed the what was it, the hood credit check. I promise you, I really do use it in practice. As I said, I've never run credit checks, and I've never had to evict anyone. So I think there's something to it other than luck. Anyway, Stanley, I wish I can answer all of your questions. You're definitely right. ACA is here to stay, along with the increased prices in insurance, because now we have to cover every damn transgender procedure and all that stuff that gets rolled into ACA. So you're definitely right. It's here to stay. Rates are rising and prices are considered. Rates of rising prices are considered lowering costs, folks. Rates of rising prices are considered. I'm not quite sure what you're saying there, Stanley. If you wanted to jump up, you could explain. But anyway, I have a lot more topics I want to cover, business topics and things like that. So I have some on the agenda. You can see what's upcoming. Anyway, it's been a great chat. Thank you all for joining. Have a good day.